Welcome to Esoteric Thoughts. Today we have Michael Tsarion joining us. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Esoteric. Nice to be back.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with Freemasonry. Is there a connection between Freemasonry and Christianity?
Wow, what a question, because actually we could, once that's answered, you might as well just pack up and leave because it's all going to be answered. That one goes to the heart of the whole issue. So what a great question. What a great, thought to come up with that question. As I said, it goes to the, there's no flim flam or messing about once you understand that, because it illustrates completely brilliantly that both do have common roots. And it's about decoding or decodifying, because all that is the substance of religion and all that is the substance of masonry at their core, and this will never, what I'm going to say now, will never be violated or can't be second guessed. It is a matter of looking at a particular archive and trying to decode it in different ways. Because any kind of interpretation, even if you're trying to military codes and ciphers, you need a variation of people. You need men's logic, you need women's logic, you need all sorts of people who are good with puzzles and paradoxicons and logic. And so it becomes a very, very big project. But what is the archive that is being decoded? Well, it's axiomatic to you and your work and this channel and my work for 21 years now, and that is sidereal mythology. Astrotheology, the lore or the gnosis of the stars. But not a lot of people realize that that's just a first step. Just understanding where the mythos comes from, which is up there, that's the origin of it. That's the origin of the great symbolic archive. To a lot of people would be so stunning that they sort of leave it there. And that's what a lot of the community who's heard that term astrotheology have done. They're faced with this extraordinary revelation that the heavens that they kept on talking about in more supernatural contexts and whatever, or stargazing, or this idea that, oh yeah, maybe, maybe I've seen some woodcuts. So it does appear that the ancient man or early man was interested in the stars, but that's where it ends. No, that's where it begins. What are you going to do with the fact that not just sacerdotal imagery, but perhaps every single scripture and text that's ever been written, we're talking even about apocryphal works, let alone the official books of the Bible and what have you, or the Quran or the Talmud, all of that is coming from up there, which means that it hasn't really been translated yet, because you're dealing in a lot of metaphor and anecdote and all of that. Well, as soon as you're dealing with imagery, you're not actually really dealing with things directly, right? It's a metaphor. So there's already this weird brain thing going on where it's like, oh, she was just terrible, like, or she was like a horrible person. We don't even listen to our own, he or she was, like, it was like a terrible experience. Like, what's like doing in there? It was either she is a horrible person or she's like a horrible, I'm confused. What's going on here with our grammar? So we still do this every day. What you got to do is take that metaphor, take that simile, take that distancing. There's a sort of it's like it. So if it's like it, is it the same as it, or it's not the same as it? What is this? Right? What is this distancing? The thing is either a real thing or it's like a real thing. And you're going to have to explain to me where that all comes from. What is it like to be like a real thing? Well, you got to take that thing that we do every day and now blow it up into giant size and say the whole ancient world did this. So if there's something behind the sacerdotal imagery, something, Jesus on the Mount of Olives, parting the Red Sea, big things. It's Hollywood. It's Cecil B. DeMille. In fact, they had to copy it. It's bigger than Cecil B. DeMille. It's bigger than Hollywood. The Pharaoh chasing, and the trip across the wilderness and the building of the golden calf and light on the mountain, and Jesus did this, and raised Lazarus from the dead, and all. This is such humongous epic stuff, but it breaks down to imagery, right? So if there's anything behind imagery, it's this like. So the ones who are the great decoders are what we call the priestcraft. I'm probably the only one to ever even touch on this. The priestcraft were the ones, and there's a female division of this as well. All of them accepted the duty or the role of trying to decode that symbolism. And that's where we actually get into a lot of trouble. That's where we get the secret societies like Masonry. That's what they are under all of it. They're decoding the symbolism. And they're so eclectic, they're less dogmatic than religion that goes, well, it's just, it's Christianity. We're going to St. Paul or Marcion or whoever. But the Masons said, no, there's too much Judaic symbolism. There's too much Egyptian symbolism. There's too much Persian symbolism. So we'll form our enclave, not just strictly with a cross on the front of a Masonic or lodge. They got the blazing star. Did you realize that's a big giveaway right there? But the thing is that they said, no, we're more eclectic. Christians are welcome. Muslims are welcome. We're ecumenical. But since we're a decodifying society that's trying to get into the essence of what these symbols are, when the gods once spoke to us, or just taking the constellations as they are now, and there's 88 of those, remember, not just 12, not just 13 in the female cults. That 13 was very important. But no, if you really go to the full extent, the zodiac really makes up about 88 constellations. And that's a hell of a task to try and codify and classify and interpret. Remember, this whole thing is about interpretation. No interpretation and no symbols, no priestcraft, no priesthoods, no need for them. So everybody within religion has tried to accept, where do we come from? All the priests and pastors, where do we start? Oh, well, we started with St. Paul and with the Vatican and the founding of St. Peter and the rock of Jesus. Are you kidding me? There's no symbolism in the world before St. Peter. There's no symbolism in the world before the Vatican put its first brick in Vatican City. Wasn't there a cult of Mithras there? Wasn't there a temple to Mithras, Serapis, and Aphrodite, and on it goes? Well, that's all symbolism. You can go back to the earliest peoples and there's symbolism there. Right, so if there's symbolism, there must be symbol decoding. Remember a thing called the hieroglyphs? The hieroglyphs? Remember the thing called the runes in the northern world? So then starts up these different colonies, these different cults is what they are, of interpretation. And they don't all agree. In fact, they end up fighting. And we just know them as the cults. But as I said, most people just left it there. Or their analysis was very, very shallow and perfunctory. My work has gone the deepest into this because it's what I'm saying is provable, because even what you know as mythology came from this. Why would you need a hero? Why would you need a combat myth? Where did that all come from? That you have the mythologies. Well, if there's a great comet serpent that's rent the world, this is very, very pronounced in Celtic mythology, but it surely is in Norse and other mythology. Right. So if a Midgard serpent, you can finally decode that after a couple of thousand years. We remember again, oh, it was a comet symbolism, and the Chinese dragon and the fireworks. And all of this this is all coming from comet. Well, the comet is the great monster. Either the great monster devours us and it's all over and we're trembling under the bed, or a guy in shining armor came along called the hero and took care of it and sort of brought us back to a semblance. Was there really a hero? Who the hell knows? But we conjured, in the fright of worldwide devastation, we conjured a myth that is so well known that everyone listening to this, and any academic or academiac, a better title for them, will go, oh, that's right, yeah, you did actually have that. The King Arthur appeared, or Lu appeared with a sword, and Marduk appeared, and Sargon appeared. Yeah, where do we get all of that? Well, you get a hero because there was a monster. You get a combat myth because there was a monster in the sky up there. So the religious texts and scriptures, they're full of it. Just read the book of Job. Anybody who, take the greatest skeptic listening to us right now, who's killing himself laughing at this, just go to your own Bible then, open it to the book of Job and start reading. And you come back and tell me what it's all about. You go to the book of Revelation and you go and tell me what that's about. And many others I could mention. Genesis. Genesis is nothing. Where did the story of just one question for anybody who knows the book of Genesis. Where did the story of a sacerdotal garden, right, as a symbol we're talking now, come from? Don't you know it's one of the oldest symbols of the stellar cult? Well, what's that? Oh, you believe in priestarchy and you listen to priests and you support the Catholic Church or the any of these churches. They're based on priests. You don't know where they came from? The very earliest priesthood. They've dug them up. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Those round towers that study the sky, the symbolism of the number 7, the Jewish menorah, the way cathedrals are designed with that tall thing called a spire. Right? Then you turn to the apocryphal works, because people will say, yes, we agree with you, Michael. There's a lot of symbolism in the Old Testament and the New Testament, but it's all God. It's all holy. When I say to you, well, see the 600 apocryphal works that also contain imagery in the same way that the Orthodox scriptures do. Why did you suppress all of those and burn them? Why did Constantine leave out hundreds of documents? Somehow, in the interpretation of the symbols, you decided that it's so unpleasing to you that, maybe the Persian symbolism or the obvious Egyptian symbolism or even some Druidic symbolism or the female symbolism, that had to go. So if it's all egalitarian and all perfectly ecumenical, and it's just symbolism, and you tell me now to my face that you accept that, something must have gone on, a battle between the minds and the cults, because hundreds of books were left out of the official Bible and they were purged. And the people who were supporters of those, or proponents of those scriptures, like the Sibylline oracles and whatever, were all destroyed. So an oracle is an interpreter, and a priest is an interpreter, and a pastor is an interpreter, a decodifier, sorry. Decodifying what? Well, it's taken centuries for us to even to get to know what? Stellar symbolism, the astrotheology, the heavens. And we must not leave it there. So the Holy Grail, whatever you want to look at. So we finally get to the point where you can point to the heavens as the origin of all of this. And that's very, very important that we have. Like I said, the Masonic star outside lodges gives us pause for thought. Well, wait a minute, a star appeared in the heavens and it led Mary and Joseph and their donkey to an inn. And it led 3 wise men or shepherds, we can't work out which. Yeah, because you're interpreters. Might show. And then it was a star in the heavens that led the way. It's all there. All that stuff about the catastrophe, all of that stuff about the Great Conjunction. It's all there. And then you did, like I've done, you can just go on for years, decoding it all. Noah gets a sign. Moses gets a sign. There's a traversal of the wilderness. John the Baptist. Imagery. You get giant earthworks like the Nazca lines that nobody can explain. What do you mean nobody can explain? If you knew that the ancients looked up, you get a history full of mythical animals. Forget about mythical people. Mythical animals: the Minotaur, the Centaur, the Sirens, the unicorn. So it's just fascinating that even though this is out now, this information, how reticent people are, to really get into it. But again, back to the question, the Masonry is just a almost blatant action of decoding, whereas religion has used different dogmatic techniques to make you think that those metaphors are real. Whatever happened to Job was sent by God or whatever, and it's distracted the mind and it's befuddled us. Well, the Masons know not to be so befuddled, but that is, they're an archive of symbolism. They've appropriated that. Now, okay, we've said before that it was like an Aladdin's cave that had an atom bomb hit it. I mean, this symbolism is literally scattered to the 4 winds, like, Genghis Khan and his Mongol hordes, the Huns or whatever, came in and ransacked everything. So there's added problems. But the duty was to collate. That's what a college means. It's collage. You bring a college of men together. You bring an invisible college together. And it's been going on for centuries. And this is the part that then, was able, once I discovered this, it led to the discovery of the female Illuminati and the role of Sibylline oracles and the female cults, because of this question of interpretation. We maybe touch on that later, but this is basically, in summation, what it's all about. So, You get Christian Masons, you get Islamic Masons, they're all over the world, because it's just about what does it mean, what does the crescent moon really mean, or what does the planet Venus really symbolize? It's a tremendous age-old excursion and adventure into interpretation.